For sure. So I'm originally from Costa Rica. If maybe I have any pura aquí, but I moved to the US 3 years ago with Microsoft as a relocation. I'm a mom for a 10-year-old boy who is amazing in my life. I was a mom very young, so he's been always my life partner. And I have my mom, my stepdad, and an older brother who was the one to inspire me to go into tech. I started tech by like 13, 14, fixing computers and reading a book about hackers. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. So that was a huge inspiration. Also, a movie called The Network. It's with Sandra Bullock. I highly recommend it because it's like the old times of hackers and touches actually important facts about data integrity when you're doing a real-time investigation. So that's why I actually got into IT. I've always loved computers. And in personal time, I fight. I do MMA. And besides doing MMA, I like to mountain bike. So I'm very much into sports in general.
Wow, that's awesome. And so you kind of touched on some of the inspiration as far as how you got into tech. And you mentioned, was it your brother that was an inspiration for you that kind of also helped
Yeah,
shape that? Or is it your father?
no, was my brother. So my big brother, he had a computer. He's 8 years older, so he was already in college time, and it was the first laptop, and I started like poking around, and then I got my first laptop, and I started poking around even more. So I started fixing it. I changed like the first operation system to back then Ubuntu, and then I wanted to know all about Linux. He did engineering, so there was a lot of like programs that he needed to find and how to install them. So I will sit with them and try to download these programs and see how to do things. So that was the beginning of it.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of one being able to look up to somebody and get inspired by that, and then also getting your hands dirty and playing with it and having that environment where you're able to really just kind of dive into it and not be really afraid of trying something new and being vulnerable. It sounds like.
Oh yeah, like I always joke, and I'm gonna be super honest. Even in my career as a professional, I've damaged couple of backup systems, also killed couple of firewalls while doing support, and I learned my lesson. And I think that anyone who wants to do IT, this is a profession that is not just what you are reading, it's actually taking what you're reading and applying it. That progression of your own practitioner, right? You're a practitioner of what means to be an IT practitioner. It's required because that's how you can understand something if you're able to configure it, set it, and even further, if you are able to troubleshoot an issue, right? If it's something as easy as installing a couple of modules of PowerShell, working with variables, working with Python, that is going to be a good introduction of, okay, this is a software, this is an executable, this is a script. So I encourage everyone to actually go and get their hands dirty.
Awesome. That's very good advice. And I feel like, yeah, that's something that even in anything you're really doing, right, as far as like just trying to progress your career, getting involved with it, diving in, asking questions as you go along is going to be key to being able to find success and find out your place in the workspace. Um, so I have other questions, but a lot of these other questions that I would ask are actually probably going to be answered by your presentation that you have. So I kind of leave that to you to see if you would like to actually dive into what it is that you do in your role, and if you have the presentation that you want to go with that, I will
Yeah.
happily let you share that.
So for me to explain what I do at my role, I'm gonna actually do the presentation and I'm gonna pause a little bit. And for anybody that has followed me, I own a YouTube channel in which I teach red team incident response. It's okay, you don't know right now. We're gonna actually review that on the presentation and a security awareness overall. So let me go ahead and present my screen. Awesome. Some context. Actually, this image is where I'll be working at Brentmont. So this is in a Microsoft, and this is the Cybersecurity Operations Center. And what we're going to be touching down in this presentation, well, I'm talking a little bit about me. Why is cybersecurity important? Why do everyone is talking about the trends of cybersecurity? Then I want to touch regarding how you can start into cybersecurity. And in order to start, you need to know what's available, right? What are the roles? What are the different fields? How you can choose a right field and launch a success plan and certain recommendations of how to achieve that. So, by all means, let me get started. So, this is about me. I am from Costa Rica, as I mentioned. I am relocating to Microsoft headquarters in Redmond. I've been with Microsoft for a bit for 6 years, and when cybersecurity for Microsoft have 4 years. One of my hobbies, I describe cybersecurity first my passion, second my hobby, and third, well, ultimately my work. So this is what I actually do in my free time. I do all sorts of fun things. I do try to hack the box. That's a great resource. I do IoT like drone testing with something called a storm package. So that's what I like. Mostly my content, it's very much into cloud identity and Azure forensics. Um, Before I worked for Microsoft, I used to do pen testing for Juniper Networks. And I am also as part of the alliance with Somos.Tech. I am part of LICA, Latinas in Cybersecurity, and I actually contest women's in cyber jutsu for ethical hacking last year. And when I did the presentation, I didn't know, but I was nominated for top women in cybersecurity from the woman in cybersecurity. So if you have checked my LinkedIn, you can see that one. Besides that, as per certifications, because we're going to talk a lot about that, I'm an actual ethical hacker certified. I have multiple from Microsoft, and I have the offensive security OCSP. And I've been doing this since around 2015. That's when I started like really getting into a lot of cybersecurity certifications. Okay, so now let's get into business. Okay, why is cybersecurity important? As you all know, and we're here connecting from anywhere around the world, right? You had a link, you access it, and now wonderful, we're in your screen. Because of that same reason, how much technology is to our day to day, it's basically another world. Having another world, it comes with risks, and that's what we call cybercrime. Right before, even though there's a lot of thefts, there's now a lot of scams because we have these two realities: the reality of you as a person and your physical aspect, and the reality that you are in the phone all the time. And by being on the phone all the time, and also companies needing to be available to you and their services, makes this data available for you, the company, and also malicious actors. So since we have expanded so much in technology, we need people like the policy, right? We need to have cybersecurity professionals. Actually, in a recent study of 2022 by IS Square, this is another good cybersecurity company and education content. The study said that work-wise, the workforce has a huge gap of we're talking about 3.4 million people that we need in this field that currently we do not have. So if you want to start in cybersecurity, you are in the best time. You're in the time that before that everything is now evolving is a time that we need people like you. So now the question. We're telling that you need to be here and help us with cybersecurity, but how can you start? One of the things when a lot of people say cybersecurity, people think sometimes that they either need a bachelor's degree or they need to do all of these other things. Like, actually, you don't need no certifications. You can learn it all by yourself as long as you know which field. When we talk about cybersecurity and IT, I actually think a lot about medicine, right? You become a doctor, and then you can be a dermatologist doctor. Then you could be a pediatrician, psychiatrist. There's like many fields to it. Same thing, cybersecurity and IT in general. So, as cybersecurity is actually part of an engineering, it's an exact science. And with this being said, the key concept of engineering, it's innovation. It's making things better than they were. That's an actual engineering. So one of the things you have to know if you choose this field is that you will never stop being a student. You will always be learning. There's going to be an evolution. Azure was launched in 2013. It's been 10 years that cloud started as a big thing, and it has evolved tremendously. So if you want to be really successful, my main recommendation is okay, I chose cybersecurity. I gotta choose a field that you actually enjoy, that you actually like, because you're gonna spend a lot of times. And don't get me wrong, there are gonna be a lot of moments that you might feel frustrated because it's normal. It's part of the human nature. If you're not getting somewhere, that's going to be something that you have to learn from it. So definitely feel something that you enjoy. So since we have been talking a lot about cybersecurity fields, I put up the most common fields that you see in companies, and I'm going to explain what do I do based on this field and where I have been. So, and I just thought this a type. My apologies. Um, so cybersecurity, the top fields, we start off from what we call the Cybersecurity Operations Center, also known as SOC. So the SOC has to be in most companies, is basically where the company is detecting, remediating, and responding to an active incident. So let's say we have a company, Contoso, and this company right now got ransomware. Who takes care of that? The SOC. If something has to be investigated, it's the SOC. So right now, my role has been most of the times in SOCs or cyber defense. That's a newer term for a bigger operation. Incident response works falls into that. SOC analyst, which is beginner sort roles, falls into that. Within that same SOC, we're going to have divisions. So there's going to be the threat intelligence. So how could we differentiate that? So threat intelligence is the people who has the data. They know what's going on out there in the world, and they come to the SOC and says, "Hey, SOC, I just know this URL, this IP, this new technique is going on. Let's help me to find if there's something." So this is how it starts working. So threat intelligence comes from the name. It's basically any actionable piece of data that we know it's malicious. Okay. Once we have, let's say, that reactive side, we have cloud solution architects. So cloud solution architects are the people who configure, right? Like an architect. They build how things should be holding up, meaning the control assets and the cloud assets. So they're the ones who are managing all those configurations. Besides that, we have application security, right? App security, we know we have so many apps. Just think about our phones. Even right now, we're connected in Teams. This is an app. So anytime a company wants to bring a third party's app or wants to build something, they need to make sure that that development that is being done is in a secure way and that we're avoiding as many risks as we can. Then data security. We've been talking, let's say right now, part of the data you and I just exchanged is that we have your email addresses, your names, right? Those, all of those fields is actually data. So data security, it's the people who look at the data as an asset, right? It's actually people sell databases now. So they have to make sure that it's protected, that it has the security controls they need to, and that they can protect sensitive data and all the what the industry has. Then we have what we call infrastructure and endpoint security. And this is something very important that is a differentiation. A cloud security architect, as we mentioned, is who makes the architecture, right? Who makes the plan, but who actually is now responsible to keeping up with the plan, what's done, is the infrastructure and endpoint security. So most of these people is going to be the people who are checking the antivirus is well configured, that the antivirus is updated, that there are logs available. Then we have the posture management. So posture management will fall half and a half between infrastructure and point security, depending on the organization. And posture management basically says, am I following the correct standards? Let's say if I am a health organization, is it following the right standard? And also it's going to talk about the vulnerabilities. We may, if you're new to IT, right? You might have heard about, oh, this is vulnerable, right? This means that the configuration can be attacked. The configuration can be taken possession by an intruder in case it's not well set. So they do vulnerability assessments and management. And then the last two. And the last two, I think, are the most trendy because everybody's like, oh, I want to do cybersecurity. I want to be a hacker. In an organization, the real hacker is the red team. So red team basically is who knows how things operate and wants to go ahead and take that hacking into an actually controlled space, right? It's an ethical hacker. And it's going to say, okay, I'm going to try to hack this company. I'm gonna see the security gaps. Within the red team was the position I had as a pen tester. So basically, I will have to run an assessment to make sure if I can gain or not access to it, then send a report and make sure that that doesn't happen. Then the blue team. So red team and blue team will work aligning because if I'm here hacking, somebody has to make sure they have the strategy, right? That this is not going on. As a pen tester, your responsibility is send that report. And who takes over the report and says, hey, we are going to do all of this, it's the red team. And I want to mention, by the way, this presentation that I based myself is referencing a great book by Judy Diogenes. Judy Diogenes, it's one of my key inspirations. You can find him in LinkedIn. And I will be uploading this slide so you can take a look at that good book. I actually have it right here. And he works for Microsoft and um, he's part of also the Latam community. He's Brazilian, so I highly recommend it if anybody's interested. And next slide. So now that we saw the big scale about the fields, now this is the time for you, right? You now have a sort of idea what's out there. Now you have to ask yourself, what else do you know about this? What is the description that maybe kind of you like? Maybe you like to be an architect, you want to build something, or maybe you want to do about vulnerabilities, or even red team. You want to see what it was a description that was like, I like how that sounds. Then, if you are totally new about it, it's how much you know about the topic. And from that, how much you can go ahead and investigate about it. Also, as I mentioned on the first deck, what will you like to do? What will you see your day to day doing? Maybe your day to day, going back to architecture, is having these ideas, planning in things. Maybe you are more into data and you like to understand standards and strings and databases. Like you need to find what you actually kind of enjoy. And that's where it comes a lot of the practice, right? When I talk about having a lab and all that, it's for you to actually understand how would it be working in that position. Then what will challenge you? You know, challenges, even though sometimes are hard, are going to take the best out of us, right? So by having these challenges and seeking our best selves, you're going to grow so much. Lastly is where you're at right now, right? You decided to jump on this call because you were like, oh, I want to know about cybersecurity. That sounds cool. I wanna hear it and check this out. So you wanna think about it. Where are you right now? And where do you want to go? How much? And it's just very personal assessment, and you have to be honest with yourself in order to find it. And it's not that you're gonna choose the right one right at the beginning. For example, I loved the idea of being in a red team, and once I was there, I was like, I don't like this that much. I want something else. So it is super important that you can go ahead and test it. And why you can do that. And this is where I'm gonna change the deck. is that you have to plan for success. You see, cybersecurity, you can switch across it if you have a level, right? So imagine a doctor, goes to a medicine school and it's a general doctor. And from that general level, he can sort and pick specialties. Something like that happens in cybersecurity. You have to have a base ground level, right? That ground level doesn't mean that you have to be a super high programmer, doesn't mean that you have to be a database expert. Um, None of that. It's going to be a basically a ground level on what you're working on. So let's say if you choose the cloud, if you choose Windows, if you choose Linux, if you choose networking, right? There's going to be a ground level that is important for everyone to know. So a lot of times people use 100 to 100, 300. I wanted to break it a little bit in the smaller sections because I think that, as Hershey says, life comes in little pieces. And these little pieces are going to be able to put your puzzle. So if you're new to IT and you want to get this started, uh, you want to start understanding operation systems, right? Doesn't mean that you need to be, and then you can choose because there's different operation systems. We have Linux, we have Mac OS, we have Windows. You can choose which one you like to know. I'm gonna be honest. I worked for 5 years straight in pure Linux, in images that were based in Linux, HPOX, Solaris, Junos OS. And then I started Microsoft. And I assure you, I hadn't even know how to put a server role back then. So if you know one, those same concepts are going to come along. So it's not going to be as harder to adopt as long as you take one. Same thing with networking. Networking is fundamental. You need to know how this machine talks to another and how you go into your browser and you went to Somos.Tech and what happened behind all of that. That's super important for you to know because in hacking, there's just two rules: to know the asset and be able to get there. Those are the two things that you need to do hacking. As easy as that. So understanding how these two things communicate is a fundamental. Same thing. I put in another Slack about cloud and applications. Why put it that way? Because it doesn't mean if you know Persian systems, you don't need to go to cloud. If you're interested, that's amazing because so many companies are now adopting the cloud and virtualization in general. So again, it's a good thing for you to go ahead and know about clouds. Same thing with applications. So we have so many web applications, RESTful in-house apps that again, for you doesn't mean that you have to be a programmer, but you can say, okay, I know a web app talks with an API and there are these flavors or APIs, REST and RESTful, and why is it the difference? Doesn't mean that you have to program an XML or a SOAP response, but you have a sort of idea how that will work. So that would be like level 50, and for you to jump to 100, now we're talking real security. Now I know an operation system. Now I know what's the network. I know the cloud. I know an application. How can I secure those things in a fundamental way? Okay, they have username and password, and they have to have permissions and privileges. Besides that, we go into cloud management, right? Okay, the cloud is public. There's something called zero trust. Just are giving you big landscapes examples. Then we have access control and management, what I was mentioning. Um, Basically, who has access and how much access they have. Now we're going to 150. 150 is that you are solid in the other two grounds, and now you can start. Now that you know operation systems, you can understand how a process works and what's regular. You can understand networking into a higher level by using packet captures and deep services like LDAP, SAM, Radius. There's so many. And regarding to cloud, we have the storage concepts like blobs, containers, storage accounts. At the 200 level is now I know the main concepts. I want to know the security posture. I want to know the regulatory and compliance. Let's say the HIPAA, GDPR, and also the data handling process. This is these levels are for any position. If you want to be an architect, if you want to be a red teamer, if you want to be a blue team, if you want to be a SOC analyst, this is basically it. And then the two levels that are remaining, of course, are going to be deeper. Now we're going back to that application concept. We're talking about web API, secrets management, and also understanding TTPs. TTPs stands for tactic, techniques, and procedures. Basically, is how an hacker hacks, right? What is the tactic, the technique, and the procedure he does in order to gain that control. And lastly, is being able to for you to do it, right? That's why you need to start doing to understand how it gets done. So being able to launch attacks live in Windows and Linux, and then being able to gather the intelligence and threat hunt, basically looking at this little breadcrumb and following the breadcrumbs until you get to the oven. This is some of the recommendations, okay? And I want to be for sure honest. You don't need to have certifications. You don't need to pay for things. You can do this if you put a lot of effort and discipline. I put some recommended resources and recommended certifications. By all means, I am a practitioner on the idea get to be able to understand the bigger landscape. Just because I work at Microsoft doesn't mean that I only work in my labs in Microsoft. Actually, I have an AWS and GP Cloud, and I talk a lot about that. I also did a podcast regarding the different clouds and how to choose a cloud. So the intro levels that we have here, it's like HomeChair, Azure 900, that is the first certification, Cloud Essentials, and Cloud Digital Leader. Go and you don't have to pay for the certification. You can actually use the material. There's a lot of this material that is for free and available. And if you want to go and pay for the certification, by all means, right? That it what you do in a certification, it is nice to have a paper, but the most important thing is that you have the knowledge. Because when you go to an interview, what's important is you to have the knowledge. Because sometimes, and I feel this because I went to college and I will do an exam and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot everything. I know there was something called relational databases and oh yeah, and this matrix and this other thing of about a vector. Oh yeah, but I forgot a lot about it. So it's important for you to always keep rereading, getting. I also put security fundamentals, right? This is strictly to security and then cloud security because it's two different pieces. Um, they're both good. Now, talking a little bit about the free things, okay? Personally, I am in different Discord channels. That's actually how I met Joe. Within the Latina cybersecurity. I'm from Costa Rica, so we have a 506 is our country code. So there is a 506 security chat in Discord. Actually, there's a lot of hackers in Telegram. There's a lot of forums for hackers in Telegram. Uh, this is all about you going and enabling yourself to look for it. The community doesn't come to you, you go to the community. This is super important concept. There's also conferences, right? If you go into and you start like poking around and you're in the US, also in countries, Costa Rica has one. I know Dominican Republic has another one. You can start looking if you want to go to a conference and how it will be. Right now, there's one. I live in North Carolina, and there's going to be one in Raleigh. But big names are, of course, Black Hat, Redcon, Blue Hat, and DEFCON. These are like top of the line. Then there are going to be vendor blocks. So vendor blocks, for example, MSRC, that's the team I belong. It's Microsoft will publish articles for you to learn. There's Red Canary, Trend Macro, Palo Alto Unit 42 blog. So there are things that you can learn from experts, and it's going to be totally for free. It's going to take just the time, the internet, and the willingness. These two are super critical. I started my online persona by LinkedIn. There are amazing blogs in LinkedIn that you can follow from people. I enable you, as I said, just look for hashtags. Or if you're like, let's say, I want to be um, cloud security architect, you can go into LinkedIn and you can search for people who have that that position and see what they're posting, what they're talking about. You can put Microsoft, Azure, AWS, and you can start seeing content about people that are practitioners. And lastly, Twitter. Uh, when I do cybersecurity incident response investigations, I a lot of times go to Twitter. Why? Because if there has been a hacking, and most likely hackers are talking about it in Twitter, you're gonna see, let's say, with MGM. I don't know if you heard that news about MGM got a ransomware. um, it was all over Twitter. When maybe you have heard about this big group, Anonymous. Anonymous posts a lot on Twitter. So go into Twitter and start using your social media, not only for your entertainment, but also to learn, because it's right there for you. YouTube as well. There's gonna be, of course, I didn't put all of them. For example, my own channel, I demo how to hack, how to investigate from scratch to bottom. So that way you can start going for free what would you have available. So that's all. And I want to thank you for going ahead and listening and the time taken.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sophia. And so actually, even before we even turn it over to the group to see if there's any questions, I just wanted to first thank you. The presentation was amazing. I really enjoyed how you were able to walk through and kind of explain to people going from the beginning to what they would need to do to accomplish and become that level, let's say 300, right? And how you broke it down into smaller portions. I think that's very helpful. One of the things that I was actually curious, and I think that would be beneficial for everybody, because I know myself, I really enjoy listening to podcasts when I'm out walking or driving. Are there any podcasts that you have heard of or you listen to that you find would be beneficial for the groups? Because and if you did say it, I apologize because I may have missed it.
No, I haven't said it. So it's called Beat Safe. That's available in Spotify. Beat Safe is a small project of a fellow friend in Costa Rica, and he
Oh,
has
nice.
done presentations about radios, data handling, and we partner up together and we did one about the cloud.
Awesome.
So
Great.
Beat Safe, it's a really good podcast. And as well in Twitter, there's a guy called, easy name, Dr. Asher. It's like that. Like if you like, I don't know if you have somebody's into video games, Dr. Mario, Dr.
Yeah.
Asher. He does amazing content. And I wanted to just to showcase this is my online persona. I'm start as small, honestly. But basically you can find here a couple of the playlist. So for this one as example, I press that. So it's based on chapters, and it will teach you about attacking the adversary in the middle. So adversary in the middle is when somebody is still something. Things about overall security. I have both in Spanish and English. That's something I've started. So if you have heard about phishing and you want to see someone how they use phishing against a company, this is a great way to start. And also certain of them are just related to concepts like service principles and using Azure as overall. Most of my content is Azure and Windows based. So if you want to go and check it out, I truly appreciate the support.
Awesome, great. No, thank you for that. Really appreciate you sharing that as well. I know myself, I've actually come across before even meeting you and knowing you were going to be presenting at Somos. I had come across, I think, some of your posts on LinkedIn and some of the videos. So really is beneficial and super helpful. What I will do actually right now, just to kind of see if there is anybody on the call who does have questions, you are more than welcome to come off mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I just want to say I learned a lot through your presentation. I'm a senior right now, and um, I'm kind of navigating on what position I want. And honestly, I really appreciate that roadmap. I have it saved as my background now because I'm really leaning into. I like posture management too. I noticed that ethical hacking is not for me, but um, I had a couple questions. So I had posted them on the Somos.Tech chat, but I guess my first question is I started I've been learning IT and cybersecurity terms in Spanish through your YouTube channel. And I was wondering if you have any recommendations for Spanish language cybersecurity guides or books that could help me and others learn more
Actually,
Spanish
I
vocabulary.
saw something again because I'm from Costa Rica.
Uh-huh.
One of my good friends, I know that people are from Argentina. I'm jumping into my LinkedIn because I know I have it saved in my favorites.
Okay.
And I could for sure follow up on that. And if you give me 1 second, I'll find it. I'm not sure if it's supposed to relate it, but it's definitely cybersecurity. Here it is.
Okay, thank you.
And by all means, where was this one? Um, yes, it was a Manual de Informática Forense. That's a lot related. Here is this one. There is one que Cibercriminología. That one I read. So cybercriminology is, of course, we talk about cybercrime. But if you're interested in data handling, when you have a cybercrime and cybersecurity guilty, you want to know what data was exposed, right? What is the level of risk for the company? Let's say if you were health insurance, it's not the same that some of the names of the doctors got leaked than actually the diagnosis of patients. So in this book, the both author, the name is something Toro. That's what I remember of the last name. Explains how are the different strategies. So I will highly recommend that if that's what you like. And there's one that the Universidad de Guadalajara, but it's something like the weaponization of the internet. But you can look Universidad de Guadalajara is the UNAM, a great place. Anything from the Barcelona Masters is very
Mhm.
much into data handling because I have a friend that he's a auditor. He did his masters over there. So
Oh,
those are
okay.
techniques.
Thank you so much. I do have a couple other questions if that's okay. Oh, okay. I just wanted to ask, what sparked your interest in joining the Microsoft security team um, and which technical and soft skills you feel have prepared you for your role?
Okay. I When I was a kid, the
Mhm.
first machine had Windows. The first server I ever installed was Microsoft. When I went to college, and I'm going to be super honest, I was a mom at 16 years old. I needed to make a dime. I needed to make a living right there and then.
Mhm.
So the first approach for me to be able to work was Microsoft. When I saw Microsoft open in Costa Rica, Microsoft Costa Rica was open 2017 March. I was doing everything I could to start and actually got hired in October. So it was my dream. I'm a very proud Microsonian. I love the culture, the diversity. I'm involved in a lot of ONGs like this one within Microsoft. So for me, Microsoft was something I was proud of. Or logo goes, we run on trust. And that's something that me being having the feeling on the back that me as a mom, I'm
Mhm.
safe and secure. That was one of the main reasons why I chose Microsoft. What prepared me to Microsoft? Well, nothing prepared me to Microsoft. In Microsoft, every day is different. Some days I work Windows, some days I work the cloud, some things I've worked Kubernetes and nobody knew about that moment. So it's a
Mhm.
lot of one of core values, it's curiosity. So being able not only, you don't need to know it all, it's networking. So I network with Joe or Joseph, like we talk to each other. Also the freedom that even though we're virtual, you just ping someone. You just look for someone and say, hello, hey, by the way, I saw that idea. It's what made me. As part, of course, of let's say technical capabilities, I'm gonna be honest. I have a bachelor's degree. I did programming. Have I ever programmed something? No, I have never programmed something at work ever in my life.
Mhm.
So I believe that is going for that job. I believe into you look for a position you like, reading what the position is actually asking for, and you're studying for that. That's the actual approach. You might be have a PhD in data science, but if there's no positions for what you actually did your PhD, what for? So you gotta adapt with the market. And soft, well, I did a customer facing role for many years. And that was something that being that patient, being the voice of calm in darkest days, I think that was the key thing. Because I'm pretty sure I was not the smartest one, but at least I was very calm, listening to people, and had a personality. Because sometimes, unfortunately, engineers tend not to be the friendliest people. So I think being friendly, open-minded will open a lot of doors.
Thank you so much. And then I just have one more question.
Go for
Are there any AI tools that you utilize in your current position? And if so, could you share which ones you use?
Oh, this is a tough question. So, cybersecurity actually, or products like Microsoft Defender for Office, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, are based in what within UI it's heuristics and machine learning. So I cannot tell you, of course, the names, but I can tell you how do they work. So one of it is machine learning and heuristics is like you do a pattern. So we know Cynthia's, I don't know, located in Jalisco, Guadalajara, Mexico. And she's always been in Jalisco, Guadalajara. And by some reason now she appears in Costa Rica. How that time works, and you can fly from Mexico to Costa Rica in a couple of hours. But what happens if that happened in 3 seconds? That's how AI works on the behind doors. And as far as us, right, engineers, there's certain things on how a detection gets work, how there's a privilege thing that occurs, all of that. That's how AI works. Of course, I cannot give any names, but you can find what I'm explaining about in protocol identity protection and Enter ID, and that's all available to public.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for the questions.
Yeah, great question, Cynthia. Thank you. And it looks like the next person is Noelle. I believe you're the next person who has her hand up.
Yes. Hi, Sophia, Joe, and everyone. First of all, thank you so much for this helpful presentation. Sophia, I actually recently came across your content since I just recently joined Latinas in Cyber and their Google Cybersecurity Certificate cohort. I'm also studying for the CompTIA Security, excuse me, for the CompTIA Security Plus cert at the same time. And I don't have a technical background. I actually have a bachelor's in psychology and criminology. So my question is, do you have any advice on how to land that first role in cybersecurity after completing these certifications that will kind of give that breadth of experience in different tasks, especially as someone with that non-technical background?
Sure. I think that you have like three routes, and I'm gonna be honest and transparent. That depends. One of the things that you need to consider on switching careers is, of course, we all work because we need to pay or day life, right? So um, there is the option about doing a residency. There are a couple of organizations that will allow you to do a residency on. Um, Sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're not. That depends on where you like. Any entry level positions, let's say as a security operations analyst, a junior role, or even working your, let's say, the corporate ladder, meaning you started as a sysadmin, right? You start as a system administrator for Windows or Linux, and you progressively go and build up your resume with those uh, basic IT skills will work. And third, as I know you're working with about Google and like, it's gonna be these different ONGs that you already they do, the different resumes, the seek jumping. And sometimes maybe I know psychology also do a lot of like HR stuffing. And I came across a good friend of mine that he was an HR guy, and then he was able to move into a basic IT position. So going to a company, maybe a big company, and moving laterally across a tech job, a junior position, could be another good route for you. And hopefully this helps.
Awesome. That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else who would like to come off mute or raise their hand for a question? If not, while we're waiting, oh, actually, nope, I see one right now. Jennifer.
Hi, thank you for this
Hello.
presentation. Really appreciate it. So right now I'm a software engineer intern at LinkedIn, and I'm also studying at UPenn online IT and psychological science. And then recently I accepted a position for next year at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. It's a cybersecurity apprenticeship, and they kind of help you find your path, like the fields within fields. So I'm wondering if you know of any online resources that help people understand what path is right for them and the way they think, the way they like to operate.
Like if you're thinking about, when you're starting college in Costa Rica, you have like a test that you do, and this is, oh, you're good for engineering, you're good in letters, you're good in music. I don't believe there's one, but what I will recommend is like if you want to go into hacking, go and try to hack the box. If you are into architecture, try to build a little app. Like maybe it's not gonna be a test because that's very like that attitude is very hard to find, but you getting the little practice across the board and also following other people. Let's say I know if you ask me today, I want to become a security researcher. That's my goal in the next 3 to 4 years. How did I find out that I wanted to be a security researcher after all these years? Well, I start looking at people that went to Black Hat to go to DEF CON, and I start seeing what they were doing and how they describe their roles. So looking for certain people on LinkedIn or YouTube and seeing the content they have, and maybe you can correlate to their day-to-day experience.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I'd like to attend that conference at some point. It sounds fun.
They also record it and this for free. Like Black Hat Asia just went out September the 8th. So you can subscribe to it and put the ring and you see once they're up there.
Okay,
They're available in YouTube.
thank you.
Great question. Thanks for that answer. It looks like we have Gustavo. You can go ahead and come off mute.
Yeah, hi, nice to meet you. Thanks, Sophia, for the information and for your experience. I have one question because I come from the system administration field, have like 5 years over there, and I was trying to see how many do you think the knowledge related to networking is needed to kind of, let's say, SOC analyst positions.
Okay, this is a tough question. Depends of the sort of SOC, right? Because if you understand as a sysadmin, you need to understand that basically um, an easy trace route or an easy ping, but you also need to understand the protocols. Let's say once you're a sysadmin, right? You know the machine turns on, you get a domain join that machine has to go into the background and reach LDAP, or you have RDP. So you need to understand, of course, the layers, and I will highly recommend start reading a packet capture. I did the Cisco training. I worked for Juniper Networks. I did a GNCP, and it wasn't until I was reading a packet capture, it all fit in. And it was not only, let's say, Wireshark. Wireshark, it's good. There's others like Fiddler by Telerik. It's a layer 7 packet capture. So you can see the HTLM response. You could see, for example, the encapsulation of LDAP. These are going to be what you actually need to be a proficient SOC analyst. Doesn't mean to start. I think that as long as you understand radios, basic of like IDP and how the session works, DNS, DHCP, you should be good. But if you want to be proficient, having that layer 7 understanding will take you so much more. Because nowadays we are no longer in the era of basically a dump of a switch. We're long past that. That's all timing. We're in the era of WAF, web application firewalls. We're in the era that things have to occur in layer 7. So I highly suggest getting some fiddler captures. You could just go ahead and put Facebook and see at the lyric and how you exchange your credentials. that's going to make you proficient.
Nice, thank you very much. So, as you say, a system administration role is like kind of we touch a lot of everything. So yeah, there is a basic knowledge of networking, of DHCP, DNS, Active Directory, also Azure. I finished recently the Azure Fundamentals. So thank you. So do you recommend, for example, to take like Network Plus or just jump into CCNA?
Okay, the network CompTIA and CCNA is different because Network Plus is basically the concepts without any vendor. CCNA is going to go back to what Cisco has provided, right? How Cisco names things. For example, give you, let's say, the Cisco ESX firewall rules are different than NSG's, or Juniper had another name for firewall. So I will actually encourage you, if you, unless you have opportunities with Cisco, honestly, by all means, in Costa Rica, for you to work at Cisco, you have to be CCNA. And back then in Juniper, you have to be GCNA. So if you are not looking for a company, go for the Network Plus. If you're looking for a company, go for that company certification.
Nice, perfect. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Great. Well, thank you guys for the questions. And I will say, obviously, if you do have any other questions, a little plug for Sophia, I would reach out to her on LinkedIn, connect with her, as well as subscribe on her YouTube channel to stay involved and to kind of follow along and be a part of that process as she takes you guys on that journey. But with that said, I just wanted to again thank everybody here. And also thank you, Sophia. So if everybody can give a round of applause, really do appreciate the presentation and you taking the time with us today. It was a great overview of everything from the very beginning to the end and how to get there and the journey. And also, I think you really touched on a key point as far as the growth mindset. And it sounds like you had that instilled in you at a younger age, even before coming to Microsoft, which I know Microsoft is a big thing for us, that keyword growth mindset. So I think that's something that's important that I hope that everybody was able to take away from today, as far as you need to continue to be active and wanting to learn more, because that's going to be the way to, that's how you are successful, essentially. So again, really do appreciate it. And for those of you who are on the call still, if you guys can leave a review, Somos.Tech/review, really do appreciate it. It helps us to be able to bring people like Sophia to these calls to help you guys out and teach you guys things, and for all of us to learn together. And then one more thing, for the resources and the links that some of the things that Sophia has discussed, and anything else that will be on the Somos.Tech/meet. So if you search that, you will be able to find those resources and links. And Sophia, off to you real quick before, if you wanted to send off a little note.
I appreciate you all being here. I hope this helps your journey, and we'd love to connect either for LinkedIn. Feel free. I try to go ahead and get in touch. I do not have any other social media, so if it's not YouTube, LinkedIn, you will not find me. Uh, so that's basically it, and I appreciate all your questions, and hopefully I'll see your good career go and growth. So the best luck with all of your wishes, and put a lot of effort because dreams do come true.